In the Zaporizhzhia region, in a small village called Stepnohirsk, back in late May 2026, Russian command decided to send in one of their most experienced units, a VDV reconnaissance group. Basically, their airborne special forces, considered among the best the Russian military has to offer. They wanted their soldiers photographed standing over a captured village, something they could hand up the chain to Moscow as proof of progress. So, under the cover of night, in heavy rain, wearing anti-thermal cloaks designed to dodge Ukrainian drone cameras, this elite squad quietly crept into Stepnohirsk. On paper, it was a textbook infiltration. But here's the twist. Ukraine's military intelligence, the DIU, already knew they were coming. Instead of engaging immediately, the special unit known as Arten let the Russians walk right in. They watched, they waited, and they let the trap close on its own. Before opening fire, the Ukrainian fighters actually gave the enemy soldiers a chance to surrender. That offer was turned down. The Russians opened fire first. What followed was captured on camera from right inside the fight. By the end of it, the area was cleared, and the flags the Russians had brought along for their propaganda photo op ended up as trophies for Ukrainian intelligence instead. And here's the part that really stings for Moscow. The Ukrainian side pulled this off without losing a single fighter.
Кидай, подожди. Шуля, держи вход. Вход.
Moving north to the Kharkiv region, where Russian infantry attempted another advance, and once again, it didn't go the way they planned. This time, credit goes to drone pilots from the 3rd Motorized Infantry Battalion. The Russian command sent a single soldier ahead as a scout, tasked with quietly finding a safe route for a larger group that was hiding back in a nearby patch of forest. But moving through tall grass doesn't hide you from a drone camera looking straight down. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance spotted him almost immediately. Strike drones were sent in one after another. The soldier tried to change direction, tried to find cover, but on the 3rd attempt, a direct hit ended the pursuit. And it didn't stop there. Ukrainian forces then turned their attention to the rest of the group still hiding in that tree line, hitting them with precision fire before they ever got the chance to move. Now let's talk about Pokrovsk, because this sector continues to be one of the most active and complicated stretches of the entire front. Russian forces aren't slowing down here. If anything, they're spreading their operations wider, and that's creating real headaches for Ukrainian logistics. According to a Ukrainian military spokesperson, Russia is expanding what's essentially become a no-fly, no-go danger zone. Ukrainian units are holding the line along the border between the Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions, but the enemy keeps increasing the number of drones in the air and launching attacks from further and further behind their own lines. As the spokesperson put it, the Russians are growing their zone of control day by day, and they're testing Ukrainian defenses constantly, pretty much every single day without pause. That expansion makes life much harder for the people trying to keep frontline troops supplied. Getting food, ammunition, and equipment to soldiers in these contested zones now often depends on small bomber drones, flying supplies, or ground robots rolling them in instead of traditional convoys, which have become far too dangerous. But it's not a one-way street. Ukrainian units, including soldiers from the 59th Brigade, are actively hunting Russian assault groups, moving in small clusters toward Ukrainian positions. The strategy is simple but effective: spot them early, hit them with drones before they ever get close enough for a direct firefight. As one soldier described it, they try to detect Russian troops while they're still deep on their own side of the line, taking them out before close combat ever becomes a possibility. Now here's a section that's honestly hard to wrap your head around. Once a Russian recruit actually reaches the front line, historian Peter Frankopan, citing information from Russian military bloggers themselves, says the average survival time is somewhere between 20 and 35 minutes. And the bigger picture isn't much better. From the moment a new recruit shows up at a training camp to the moment he's killed in combat, the entire timeline can be as short as 10 days to 3 weeks. Why so fast? Because most of these men are given only a handful of days of training before they're pushed into battle. According to estimates from Western sources, Russia is currently losing more than 30,000 personnel every single month. Total losses since the invasion began back in February 2022 have now passed the 1 million mark. And by these estimates, Russia's casualty rate is roughly 8 times higher than Ukraine's. That staggering toll is having a real effect on recruitment. New contract soldier sign-ups inside Russia have dropped by around 30% this year. The Kremlin is still managing to bring in somewhere between 800 and 1,000 volunteers a day, but it's clearly becoming harder to sustain. To keep the numbers up, Russian authorities have had to get creative and expensive. New recruits are being offered signing bonuses of up to $80,000, plus debt forgiveness worth up to $140,000. To put that in perspective, the average monthly salary across most Russian regions sits around $1,000. That's an enormous financial incentive. But given how short a soldier's time on the battlefield tends to be, no amount of money really changes the underlying reality these men are walking into. Let's shift over to some of today's most intense combat zones, the Slavyansk and Hulai Pole sectors, where the enemy has been launching some of its heaviest attacks of the day. Artillery shelling continues to hit border communities in the Sumy region, with the settlements of Koronak, Sopik, Backfires, Volfine, Havrolova, Sloboda, and Kucharivka all coming under fire. The town of Lushki was also targeted from the air. Meanwhile, in the southern Slobozhanshchyna sector, Russian forces made 3 separate attempts to break through defensive lines near Zaporizhzhia, as well as toward the settlements of Izbitske and Vilcha. 2 of those clashes were still ongoing as of the latest report. And in the Kupiansk sector, the enemy launched 2 attacks aimed at Ukrainian positions near the villages of Podoli and Novoselivka. The Russian military command recently claimed they had taken full control of 2 villages in the Zaporizhzhia region, Novoselivka and Huliapilske. To back up that claim, they released a video showing soldiers from the 38th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade posing proudly with a Russian flag on the edge of those villages. Ukrainian forces had a response ready. They released their own footage showing what actually happened right after that propaganda video was filmed. Almost immediately, that same Russian assault group was hit by drones from the 92nd Separate Assault Brigade and the 61st Separate Mechanized Brigade. The strike neutralized the group, and 1 Russian serviceman was taken prisoner. The footage even shows a Ukrainian drone flying directly toward one of the flag-bearing soldiers, who apparently made no attempt to move out of the way.
Ну, давай так, накат. Ось, видно. Посмотрим. Що это накрито? Це не гармата, не кажется? О!
Быть связистом. Да ёбана в рот, блядь.
Да.
Якийсь связист, бачку, да, блядь, говорю.
Там ПГшка була.
Switching gears now to some diplomacy. Kuwait has officially completed all the internal legal steps needed to bring its military cooperation agreement with Ukraine into force. Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Andriy Sybiha, welcomed the news, calling it the start of a new chapter in the relationship between the 2 countries. He explained that this agreement opens the door to joint projects, technology, and expertise sharing, and a deeper strategic relationship in defense and security. Sybiha pointed out that Ukraine, having faced Russian aggression for years now, has gained a level of real-world security experience that's genuinely valuable to partners abroad. Back to the front line, the Ukrainian Air Force pilots carried out a precision strike on a location where Russian ground attack aircraft crews and armored vehicles had gathered. Ukrainian intelligence had identified the exact building being used to house enemy personnel, and once those coordinates were confirmed, the strike hit both personnel and nearby positions equipped with D-30 artillery guns. Now let's cross the border into Russia's Belgorod region, specifically the town of Shebekino. Ukrainian strike drone operators targeted a fuel depot belonging to a company called Totus, which had been supplying fuel and lubricants to the 127th Regiment and the 128th Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces. The strike triggered a massive fire, and by the time it was over, the entire depot, along with all the fuel stored inside, had been destroyed. As one soldier involved in the operation put it, fuel is already in short supply on that side of the border, and yet someone decided to stockpile it all in a single, very hittable location. And finally, we head to Krasnodar Krai in southern Russia, where the Slavyansk oil refinery is still on fire days after being struck by Ukraine's defense forces on the night of June 28. By the following evening, independent monitoring group Astra reported the fire had already spread across more than 20,000 square meters. As of the morning of June 29th, firefighters still hadn't managed to bring it under control. This isn't a small target either. The Slavyansk refinery is one of the largest independent oil refineries in all of Russia, sitting in the city of Slavyansk on Kuban. It processes somewhere between 4 and 5 million tons of crude oil per year. It accounts for roughly 9% of all oil refining capacity in Russia's southern federal district. And that brings us to the end of today's roundup. From a nighttime ambush in Zaporizhzhia to a burning refinery in Krasnodar, it's clear the situation on the ground and behind the lines keeps evolving fast. As always, we'll keep tracking these developments and bringing you the clearest picture we can, straight from verified military reports.